Hi, Rose here. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've started to notice a lot of talks and Watchtower articles on donations. Up to recent years, I had never heard so many talks on donating, and it was starting to really bother me. So, I did some research. If you've been in the organization for some time, you will remember the only times we heard about contributing or donations was after the intermission song at the conventions and circuit assemblies, and at the very last announcement of the convention on Sunday. That's it. Every once in a while, we would have a special needs talk during our midweek meeting for our brothers and sisters who were going through a major catastrophe someplace around the world, or for something that was needed to be taken care of at the Kingdom Hall. But that was it. So, I need to tell you about my experience with donations over the last 50 years so you can understand why this has bothered me so much. I've wondered over the last 20 years why they changed from printing all the publications to everything just going digital, with physical copies only as needed, and very sparingly at that. See, when I was younger, we would actually pay for all of the literature up front at the counter. That's back in the day when we had actual literature counters. They've done away with those in the new or remodeled Kingdom Halls now. But yes, we would go up to the literature counter where we picked up our stacks of magazines or bound volumes or books, and we paid for them right there. The bound volumes were $4, books were 50 cents to $3.75, depending on the size. The Bible sold for $3.75, and magazines were 10 cents. So when we would go up to get any placements for our ministry, the literature was prepaid by us. Then, when we went out in service, we asked for a donation or a contribution to cover the cost of printing. We asked for 10 cents per magazine, or 20 cents for both magazines, and the cost for whatever we had paid for the books. Back then, we actually sold subscriptions to the Watchtower and Awake that came out twice monthly and was delivered folded in brown paper. That later changed to white. A year's subscription was $2.50 for the Watchtower and $2.50 for the Awake. And you got 24 magazines for that. 48 if you count both magazines. Unlike today, where you might receive 1 or possibly 2 magazines per year to place. When we would go to the door, we would offer both the Watchtower and Awake and place them as a set. We would offer the Watchtower with its companion, the Awake magazine. In the late 80s, the price went up to 25 cents each, 50 cents for both. That's how much we paid when we picked them up at the literature counter. I know 50 cents doesn't seem like very much money, but remember, we'd only been asking for 20 cents for both, and now we were asking for 50 cents, which back then seemed like a huge jump. I wasn't sure how I was going to ask for that much, but we did. I remember I always carried a change purse in case it was needed, especially when it came to the subscriptions, so I could give the householder their exact change. When we sold a subscription, we would have the householder fill out their information. Then, at the end of the month, I would turn in all of my subscription slips that I had placed, not sold, along with the money we had received for the subscriptions. I remember the sub-slips that were blue and yellow. Up to the late 90s, we would pay the total amount for the magazines when we picked them up at the literature counter. I would buy $5 worth because that was all I could afford. Then, when we went to the doors, we would ask the householder up front for a donation of 10 cents, then 50 cents, to pay for the magazine's printing cost. But in 1990, there was a tax ruling against Jimmy Swaggart, a televangelist. The United States Supreme Court determined that despite the religious not-for-profit status, Swaggart was liable for tax on the sale of his religious materials. The sale of Watchtower publications fell under this ruling, so any publication sold would now be taxed. So the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society decided that rather than pay tax on any money it was receiving from the sale of the publications, it would be better to direct Jehovah's Witnesses to, instead of asking for the printing cost directly, we were directed to start asking those at the door who accepted publications in the house-to-house ministry work if they would like to contribute to the worldwide work. We told them the literature was free of charge. At the time, I had no idea about this ruling. We were told that the change was because now we are relying on Jehovah. He would provide the needed funds the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society needed to continue its much-needed work of spreading the good news.
Where does all of the financial support come from? Largely from you, dear brothers and sisters.
I don't know about anyone else, but I was lousy at getting money for the worldwide work. I had no problem having the householder pay for the magazines or books that I would place with them, but that's not what we were asking for money for anymore. So I ended up paying for most of the publications I placed out in service myself in the contribution box. But this led to a decline in money going back east. Apparently not everyone was paying for the publications they placed, like I was. See, a year right before the organization did that, the society, organization, branch, what have you, started to only ask for contributions from us, God's servants. We didn't have to pay when we picked up our magazines, books, and bound volumes at the counter anymore. That felt so strange to me, not paying for our magazines and books at the counter. They just asked what you needed and how many, and then they just handed them over. Remember, prior to that, I would only order what I could personally afford. I remember in the late 80s, early 90s, we would go to the door, give our presentation, then we would pull out the magazines, offer them, and at the end of our presentation, instead of asking for the printing cost, we would ask if they would like to make a contribution towards the worldwide work. It really was 50-50 on whether they gave you anything, so like I said, I just made up for it. I felt extra pressure to try and get money at the door. They weren't just magazines and books, they were spiritual food. Plus, it was getting expensive for me as I was not being reimbursed at the doors anymore. It just dawned on me. That's when we stopped taking subscriptions for the magazines, because how can you sell a subscription but not ask for money to cover it? Well, all of this led to a decline in money going back to New York, to the society, as it was then called. During this period, we also had the launch of the internet around 1995. This just intensified the decline in the amount of money that the Watchtower Bible and Tract received, as they were no longer selling books, magazines, and subscriptions, and bound volumes to us. But we as witnesses were told the society branch, as it is called now, received more than when we were only asking for money to cover the printing costs at the doors. I was so impressed at the time. We were shown how we had completely relied on Jehovah to provide. This truly shows us it's Jehovah's organization. But that wasn't true. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society's revenue declined since they were no longer able to sell books and magazines. Now, I have repeatedly stated in my previous videos, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was a publishing company that made money off of the publications that were placed by the brothers and sisters out in service. It was a steady stream of money coming in. We were constantly told in our publications that we were so different from Christendom, all of the other religions, because we did not pass a collection plate during our meetings like they do during their services. But there was no need to pass a collection plate because they were making money from selling publications. When this income stream started to dry up, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was forced to look to other sources of income. Now, many here might say that the publications we placed were not bringing in any income, but it was. I found we were actually selling the magazines and publications for more than what it actually cost the organization to make. The organization, or branch as it is now called, made a profit on everything we placed. But the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is a non-profit organization, right? Well, not-for-profit organizations can make tremendous profits, as Watchtower had done and is still doing. The term simply means that under the rules of its incorporation, the profits cannot be distributed to shareholders. So huge wealth can be accumulated as long as it's kept within the organization. Not-for-profit does not only prevent a company from becoming incredibly wealthy, but can also use its wealth to provide lavish lifestyles to its leadership. Remember Joseph Rutherford's lavish lifestyle at Beth Serene and the 2 Cadillacs he had the use of in the 1930s, while all of the brothers and sisters were dealing with the Great Depression and had nothing. And that's what the Watchtower organization did. They kept it within the organization. But now, how can they make money since we don't, quote unquote, sell the publications any longer? They turned to real estate. In some of my previous videos, I've gone over just some of the real estate holdings the Watchtower organization has accumulated over the years. For one example, just Google IBSA, short for International Bible Students Association. Look at the properties they have obtained. I remember when I first found out about IBSA properties, I was floored at the really fancy homes, some worth over $1 million. I thought we weren't supposed to be materialistic and keep our lifestyles simple. They're still buying and selling properties through this IBSA corporation. In 2013, Jared Kushner, who is Donald Trump's son-in-law, his family companies paid $340 million for the Brooklyn Bethel facility and 3 of the neighboring Columbia Heights properties. In 2015, Stephen Lett, during his May 2015 broadcast, stated that there was more money going out than coming in.
We have looked forward to this next fiscal year and projected the expenditures for all of the theocratic initiatives we are scheduling. In doing the math, we found that the amount of money flowing out will be much greater than the amount of money that we have coming in at this time.
Emphasis was put on honoring Jehovah with your material possessions, or money. They needed more money. Why? Because they were building Warwick, which was completed in August of 2016. At the end of every year, we would receive an article that motivated all witnesses to donate more by claiming our contributions honor God. As you see here in the November 2017 study edition of the Watchtower on page 18, it states, in addition to our labor of love, we can honor God by way of our voluntary contributions. It goes on, we can be assured that the generous person will be blessed. Moreover, when we give our valuable things to Jehovah, we honor him. The July 2017 study edition of the Watchtower on page 9 had an article, Seeking Riches That Are True. It started with the question, how can material possessions be used to strengthen our friendship with God? This is just part of the priceless inheritance for those who make friends in heaven. In 2019, a song was also released that now appears under original songs. It's titled, Honor Jehovah with Your Valuable Things. What does it say? What more can I do to give honor to you than to give you my valuable things? No matter what life brings, I'll honor you with my valuable things. In the August 8, 2003 Awake on page 29, under Watching the World, the organization made a point of bringing attention to the Vancouver Sun newspaper article on churches accepting plastic card donations. It said, a growing number of Canadian churches are adopting modern banking practices by introducing bank cards and credit cards as convenient ways for parishioners to make collection plate donations. It went on, debit machines have been placed in church halls along with donation envelopes with options for automatic account withdrawal and credit card payment. Individuals simply swipe their card, key in the amount they wish to donate, and then put a copy of the receipt in the collection plate. As one pastor stated, cashless society is where society is going. Why not the church? Yet, within a decade, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was promoting the benefits of plastic card donations. Now, there are credit card machines at all the conventions, as well as in many kingdom halls. In the November 2015 study edition of the Watchtower, under Show Appreciation for Jehovah's Generosity, the organization listed the multiple ways a witness could donate, including real estate, life insurance, and bank accounts. I've personally known of those who have left everything to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society instead of their children. In May of 2016, online donations were now featured. All witnesses had to do was just go online and donate now. The December 2019 Watchtower had the article, Give Thanks for Everything, which gave instructions for making either a one-off or a recurring online donation at donate@jw.org. In October of 2021, we had a new resolution at the midweek meeting to send in a certain amount over what we normally send in as a congregation to the organization. A year prior to that, the governing body had the brothers and sisters anonymously write down and agree to how much we would be able to personally give each month. Now, to those in the congregation, that's like writing down a promise to Jehovah, because now they feel obligated to donate more. During the 2022 morning worship video, which has recently been deleted from jw.org, Anthony Morris, the then governing body member, he is no longer a governing body member, gave the talk, Jehovah Loves a Cheerful Giver. In this talk, Morris claimed the organization does not solicit money. He even criticized Christendom for doing so. But then he went on to say that we all need to donate money for Jehovah to love us. He said, we have never considered it proper to solicit money. But then he goes on to claim in this talk, this does not mean we cannot talk about money. We don't beg for money, but nevertheless, we have to talk about it. He went on, for God loves a cheerful giver. So there we have it. We are happy to give to Jehovah. He said, we never come across like putting people to begrudgingly give just so we get money. That is not this organization. He said, of course, Christendom are experts at begging for money. But then later, in the same talk, he stated, one translation of the Bible put it nicely, God loves people who love to give. And that's so true. So we want Jehovah to love us. So this money we might have, whatever amounts, depending on our own personal circumstances, we're happy to give to kingdom interests. He even said, Jehovah doesn't approve coming empty-handed. Money meets a response in all things, and we have to take that into account, even if we're in the poor range. Now, let me ask you, isn't that asking for money? This year, at the 2023 Regional Convention, we are shown how even refugee brothers and sisters in other countries donate. But it's not just the adults that are being coerced. Children are as well. But they did something else around 2014. See, all kingdom halls belong to the congregations at one point because they're the ones who paid for it. Instead of having to go to the bank, however, to get a loan, the organization had been loaning money through Kingdom Hall loans for those that needed it. But on March 29th, 2014, a letter to all congregations announced that the organization would no longer provide Kingdom Hall loans and would close the Society Kingdom Hall Fund, erasing what the congregation owed through this Kingdom Hall loan. Instead, now all congregations were instructed to send surplus funds and consider pledging an ongoing amount for the construction of Kingdom Halls and Assembly Halls. Another letter dated May 12, 2014 explained that congregations could set aside reserve funds to cover their liability for any monthly operating expenses and minor repairs. An August 2020 letter to elders clarified that the expected congregation donation into the Worldwide Work Fund for Kingdom Halls should be based on a monthly per publisher amount suggested by the branch office and reviewed by local congregation elders. Now, at first, it seemed that congregations were benefiting from the organization erasing their loans. However, this was not necessarily seen as a fair arrangement, because there was a benefit for congregations who had newly constructed halls with large outstanding balances. But on the other hand, members of congregations that had already paid for their Kingdom Hall loans were now being suggested a figure by the organization to donate towards kingdom halls of other congregations. As I said earlier, kingdom halls generally used to be set up as a separate legal entity managed by the elders representing the local congregations using the hall. Now it appeared the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was being very generous when it began forgiving kingdom hall debts, until the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society started changing the ownership of kingdom halls from local congregation titles to the Watchtower's ownership. So while the congregations were relieved of this debt for those who had these loans, the Watchtower organization was actually gaining direct control of the properties, whether they had loans or not. So those who had already paid for their kingdom halls now no longer owned them. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society did. Now, even though the organization owned all of the properties, they continued pushing for an overall increase in Kingdom Hall related donations. Over $2.7 billion worth of Watchtower properties have been found listed for sale at online real estate websites between 2004 and 2020. In New York alone, besides Warwick, you have Patterson, The Farm, Wallkill. You also have the branch facilities around the world, as well as all of the Kingdom Hall properties. Now, they're building a studio much like California's Hollywood studio in Ramapo, New York. They're also building a major video studio in Australia. So the talks and publications for donations have ramped up even more. So knowing all of this, why all the donation talks now? The change in our kingdom songs, this constant push for donations. What I found was that child sexual abuse is rampant within the organization. The first settlements I could find were in 2007. The Watchtower settled 16 child abuse cases with a total payout estimated to have been $13 million. But it didn't stop there. It's only gotten worse. The payouts have gotten bigger as more come forward with their experience of child sexual abuse within the congregations that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society have really tried to keep silent and settle out of court. Countries such as Australia have gone after the organization due to its policies on protecting children. You can watch the whole trial on YouTube under the Australian Royal Commission. Jeffrey Jackson even makes an appearance. I'll link a video that I had made just on his testimony in the description for you. I think everyone needs to hear it.
We certainly hope to follow Jesus and be his disciples.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
But Australia isn't the only country that has this problem. Bolivia, Mexico, the UK, many other countries. Yes, even in the United States. Due to the organization's staunch two-witness policy, as well as the fact that they do not turn abusers into the authorities, as it will bring reproach upon Jehovah, the organization has proven to be a haven for pedophiles. As you can see from the above revision under Chapter 16, dated 11/30/21, for the Shepherd the Flock of God Elders Manual. Elders are no longer to put detailed information regarding what a pedophile did. Prior to this, everything that the pedophile had done was in this file. But the organization found that to be a liability because prosecutors were able to obtain these details for criminal pursuits. They have even told bodies of elders to destroy records. For them to even have anything like this in the Elders Manual shows that there is a problem. Millions, yes, millions of donated funds are going towards their defense and settlements. I was a victim of child sexual abuse from an elder in a neighboring congregation for several years. And because of the two-witness rule, nothing was done about it. I found out later in life he just went from congregation to congregation molesting other girls. Now, this really sickens me because it's true. Remember what David Splain said in his apostate talk at the 2021 convention about settlements? How these were just apostate lies? Well, the thing is, they aren't apostate lies. There is a reason they are starting to ask for donations now, more than ever. The organization's claims of Ramapo, expensive equipment, indigenous people, refugees, or whatever they are saying at the moment, is not all where the donations are going. The organization is plagued with CSA cover-up worldwide. Millions, yes, millions of dollars are going to pay for legal fees and settlements. So the talks and constant reminders to donate are just getting worse. Above is what C.T. Russell stated about the society ever needing to ask for money. There's also the May 1st, 1959 Watchtower on page 285. Note what is stated in the very first paragraph of this article. All of this is what I have found through my research on why they are now asking for more money. If Charles Russell, the first faithful slave, said that it would be time to close the organization if they ever had to actually start asking for money, maybe they should listen to the founder of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and close shop instead of getting rich off the donations of the followers and the real estate they own. Yet, they tell all of Jehovah's Witnesses to keep their life simple. If witnesses have to keep their life simple, shouldn't the organization do the same?
As you know, for over 130 years, this organization has never solicited for funds. And where does all of the financial support come from? Largely from you, dear brothers and sisters. Most funds come from what you voluntarily put in the contribution box in your kingdom hall. The governing body has asked me to use Proverbs 3:9 as the theme for the message they would like to be shared with the entire household of faith this month. Let's read that text together. Honor Jehovah with your valuable things, because we in no way want to be categorized with other organizations, religious and otherwise, that coerce their supporters to donate. But we have confidence that our hearts will be moved to contribute what we can each month
Is my best good enough?
And I might mention that this is true even of publishers in less affluent countries. It is encouraging to note that even in lands with limited resources, the very poor contribute to the cost of their kingdom hall and its maintenance. Because we in no way want to be categorized with other organizations, religious and otherwise, that coerce their supporters to donate. A small donation from each of many of Jehovah's people adds up to a large amount of dedicated funds that can be used powerfully by Jehovah's organization. Because we in no way want to be categorized with other organizations, religious and otherwise, that coerce their supporters to donate. Yes, we can honor Jehovah with our valuable things, including the financial support of true worship.
Still, we learn from this account of the needy widow that Jehovah notices and He treasures each act done for Him, especially when we do it despite difficult circumstances. The account of the widow at Luke chapter 21 can assure you that although circumstances may affect what you can contribute to Jehovah, He notices and treasures each act you do for Him, especially when you do it in the face of difficult circumstances. He remembers, and He will reward even the smallest contribution given in support of His kingdom.
Honor Jehovah with your valuable things. We are not in any way desirous of creating a hardship on anyone. However, we felt that if you knew the circumstances accurately, you would apply Proverbs 3:27 to the situation. There, we are encouraged not to withhold what is good. But then the scripture adds, if it is within our power.
Well, hopefully this gives you something else to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like algorithms. It really does help make it go out to other people. And if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe so that you get notified of future videos. And as always, take care and thanks for watching.